Debt isn't just a source of our financial stress, it can make your everyday living less enjoyable, with a significant portion of your time and your paycheck going to repaying that debt. Now, focusing on debt can not only save you money, but it can also improve the quality of life. During this time, you have to avoid taking on new debt and building up an emergency fund so you don't have reoccurring debt. But in today's video, we're going to be breaking down 6 different ways to pay off debt faster and eliminate it in its entirety. Starting with our first one, paying more than a minimum payment every month. When it comes to debt repayment, when you think of credit cards, most of the time you look at those statements, it says it's going to take you 15, 18, 20 years to pay off the debt if you make that minimum payment, which is the reason why focusing on even a small amount towards that debt can pay it off exponentially faster. When you think of minimum payments on revolving debt, credit cards are typically only paying a fraction of the principal balance, meaning you are going to carry that forever. Making larger, more consistent payments are going to and will eliminate the principal and really take down the debt that you owe overall. For example, let's suppose you have $5,000 in debt and you're at 20.99% APR, which is kind of crazy, but it is about average or a little bit below average as we're seeing it today, and $138 minimum payment. It will take you almost 5 years to pay it off, making that minimum payment. 5 years of your life to make that minimum payment to pay it off. If you put $300 towards it every single month, it is only going to take you 20 months to pay it off, and you're saving almost $2,000 in interest. When you think about your hourly wage and think about how much $2,000 really is spent in time, it makes a big difference. You can also pay more than that minimum amount on any of your loan types. When you start looking at your auto loan, your credit card loan, your personal loan, but even when you look at student loans and mortgages, anything that you're paying extra is going to come off their principal balance, and anything that is coming off their principal balance means you're paying it off faster. Now, the second one we look at, setting up a payment plan. Rather than just throwing extra money towards it randomly, which is what people do, and I see this through financial counseling all the time, takes it very more efficient if you map out exactly how you want to do. And of course, this gets into the debt snowball and the debt avalanche method. You have to have a designated way to pay back debt. Now, the first thing I ask individuals that are borrowing, how do you plan to pay this back, and how often do you plan to make additional payments? For majority of people, it's a deer in the headlights. It is a big question mark. They have, and if they take out a loan for 60 months, they intend to make 60 payments on it, paying the maximum amount of interest during that term. So looking and thinking of the general rule, we're going to go in here and use the debt avalanche. Me personally, this is the one that I use to eliminate all my debt in its entirety. List your loans and credit cards, including balances, APR, minimum payments, on a spreadsheet. Very easy. Knowing exactly where you are can give you an accountability piece that is going to come in later. Prioritizing your debt, you're going to do them either higher to lower interest rate or the balances. Again, debt avalanche uses the highest APR at the first one and the lowest APR at the bottom. So when you think of having, let's say, 3 credit cards, 20%, 25, and a 30%, that 30% is going to get every extra dollar. Now, the reason for this is every dollar you're putting in there, you're getting that extra and much higher APR paid down faster, meaning you're getting more bang for your buck for every dollar you're putting in there. Now, of course, our next step, looking at the budget. When you look at the budget, how much theoretically or how much can you honestly put towards that debt every single month? Be sure to make all of the minimum payments on everything else. We're focusing on one and only one payment, one credit card, one principal balance at a time. When you start paying that down and paying it off, you will see that it does get easier once you start getting out of the debt snowball and start getting out of the debt really repayment schedule. It is a game changer for the rest of your life. There's a lot of calculators, spreadsheets, applications that you can use to make this easier, so definitely seek some of those out. Now, the third one we're looking at, tackling high interest debt first. This is, again, when you think of getting the most bang for your buck, the debt avalanche method is going to eliminate the most expensive debt that you have. And honestly, when it comes to a financial order of operations and really breaking it down, getting rid of this debt comes right after the emergency fund. Now, the reason for this is if you do not build an emergency fund, and I know a lot of people, kind of do this backwards. They'll be putting extra money towards their debt. They'll be putting extra money towards the credit card. Boom, an emergency happens. They go straight back to those credit cards, racking up the bills that are on there. Or the other thing we see is they'll put a lot of money on the credit card only to borrow a majority or more of it back during the month because they put all the money on the card itself. Now, of course, when you start looking and paying off this debt, You have to make sure, like we said, having that emergency fund, but making sure you have a strategy, you have the game plan. When we start looking at the avalanche method, which again, that is the one that I love, focusing on that highest APR is going to have the most bang for your buck. Looking at number 4, adjusting your budget and eliminating unnecessary expenses. So this is the point where it's going to take a piece of accountability from you. It is going to take you, the more money that you can put towards that high interest debt, the faster it's going to come down, the faster you're going to be out of debt, the faster that you're going to have more money at the short-term sacrifice of really cutting back on expenses. This means reviewing your budget, your spending plan, whatever you want to call it, looking at your current expenses and looking where you can cut anything or really removing the discretionary spending. This doesn't have to be forever. This can be short-term, getting it out. So think of eating out, concerts, tickets, video games, spa visits, everything that could be maybe a little pinch point or a little point of pain, but eliminating those and removing them even for the temporary and really the long-term gratification of eliminating that debt. Now, when you cut out of that budget and really look at the bucket, you can also look at the necessary expenditures. Where can you get things that you can get for less? A lot of people don't realize when you look at a lot of fixed expenses and a lot of things that you're buying on a regular basis, there's a lot of different ways that you can get them cheaper. When we look at mortgages, could it be refinance? Could it be getting a lower payment? Auto loan, could it be a lower rate? Auto insurance, could it be cheaper insurance for the same quality product? There are a lot of ways to eliminate necessary expenses or reduce those necessary expenses while freeing up some income to pay down and eliminate that debt. You want to be strict enough with yourself where you can hold yourself accountable, but there are some areas, of course, that you cannot cut back at all that are going to still require you to be fully invested in there. Now, number 5, consider consolidating your debt. Now, this is one that I like, but it could be very counterintuitive depending on your spending habits, depending on your budget, depending on exactly how you do this. Now, when you think of debt consolidation, let's say, for instance, we're using that 20.99% APR credit card, and you're doing a debt consolidation, let's say the average of 5 different credit cards at $5,000 each. So you have $25,000 in debt, roughly running at 25% APR, which is pretty feasible. With the debt consolidation loan, you could consolidate that $25,000 into, let's say, a loan that's at 10% for the next 3 years. And in 3 years, guess what? The loan is gone. The debt is gone. Congratulations. You're completely debt-free with the credit card debt. It is gone in the entirety. The catch to this is a lot of people will do the consolidation with freeing up areas or really freeing up the balances on those credit cards. They will continue to use the credit cards. So if you're an individual that's making $5,000 a month with credit cards, all of your liabilities, all of your expenditures, you're spending $6,000 a month, you're negative $1,000 cash flow every single month, which means you're going to have those credit cards to keep it afloat. And that traditionally is what we are seeing. Now, of course, debt consolidation loans also have to have a higher credit score to qualify for those lower rates. You want to make sure it makes sense. Is it going to be a payment that's going to be feasible? Is it a payment majority of time that is lower than those minimum payments on the cards? And how fast can you tackle it? Really challenge yourself. So what I see again through the financial counseling piece is we'll have individuals that have credit cards, let's say all said and done, their monthly payments are $500. They do a consolidation loan. Now their monthly payment is $300 because they wanted to take it out to 5 years instead of 3 years. So at a $300 payment, they are saving $200 every single week. And guess what? Or excuse me, every single month. But guess what? They go right back to credit card spending and right back to credit card debt. So now they have the credit card payments, they have the minimum payments on those credit cards, and they also have this personal loan on the side that they did for debt consolidation. All of a sudden, you fast forward 3 to 5 years, credit card balances are high again. We're still hanging out with that unsecured loan that we had. Consolidation time again, doing it over and over and over again because they never changed the spending patterns in the first time. And number 6, keeping your debt out of collections. This is another one. If you're falling behind on loan payments, if your account is delinquent, this is going to tank your credit score. If you think the debt is unaffordable now, it gets worse. When you get into debt collectors, when you get into the things that they can do, you start tacking on late fees, you start tacking on interest charges, higher interest rates. You could get hit with collection agency fees. You could get hit with legal fees. You could get hit with such an incredible amount of things when it comes to collections. You could also be looking at garnishments where they can actually come in, take the money out of your paycheck until that debt is fully repaid, which is kind of crazy. Also, tanking your credit score, meaning if you need a home, you need a new auto loan, if you need anything, it is going to be exponentially more expensive when you go get it, when you go to get that. Now, of course, if you're dealing with these, you have to consider outside help, just like I do with the financial counseling piece. It is something we offer at a credit union. It is something that is totally and completely free. Be very cautious. Do your research, know exactly what you're getting into. We see a couple of places that do consolidation. They let everything go to collections. They work out repayments with some of the collectors. And overall, it tanks your credit card for an exceptional amount of time. And also, it is something that you can do entirely in your own being. You can do it yourself if you choose to, if you want the realization of the debt that you owe. The benefits of paying off this debt when we start looking at a tighter budget, and again, for an extended amount of time, if you have to eliminate the debt, it is not incredibly easy, but you have to keep your eye on the prize. Just like we got back here, guys, the debt-free journey, being motivated, staying, thinking of the future you. And I really take that in consideration. When I think of things that I'm doing where I'm purchasing assets, I'm investing in accounts, when I start thinking of what are my kids going to think, what is future me going to think, when I start eliminating and really knocked out all of our debt, paying down the mortgage exponentially to give us the ability and the financial freedom to live the life we want. And also, we're buying a lot of time back. That's one of the big things where if you're spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week at work, what is your time worth when it comes to retirement? And when it comes to really giving away your money, literally for debt, it is going to be crazy. So of course, you'll pay less in interest and more on principal. You want to get rid of it. You want to eliminate the debt. And of course, if you've ever been burned by it, you'll be an individual rate very quickly that will not and will choose not to get back into debt by any means. Now, of course, when you start thinking of improving your life, debt elimination and really control is the big thing you're getting back. It is a very significant stressor in life. When you think about debt, when you think of being debt-free, is not going to eliminate all of your financial worries, but it will give you some breathing room. You have the ability and really flexibility to live the life that you want and live it how you choose to. So guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and I'll catch you in the next video.